Greetings, welcome to the Metal Book Tavern. Welcome to the 4th episode of Why It's Worth Reading series. Haven't filmed those in a year. In this episode, I want to talk about an amazing fantasy series. You've probably heard about it, and you have definitely seen the 2005 film adaptation of the series. It's a 7-book series. These books aren't as big as the Harry Potter books, so therefore they fit perfectly into one volume. The name of the series is Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. I read the first Narnia book in 2005. I read The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, and I went back to the series in 2019. I found the first 4 novels, but unfortunately didn't find the last 3. Nonetheless, I read these 4 novels and I loved them. I found this volume with all 7 books in 2022 and it became one of the best books I read last year. For some reason, I don't see many people talk about Narnia on BookTube. I think Narnia books are quite underrated, at least compared to other big fantasy series, and it's quite strange since it's one of the most popular books ever. I get that Narnia is much easier to read than Lord of the Rings, and it's more simplistic in comparison, but nonetheless Narnia is a hidden gem. Here's why. Part 1. The plot. The premise of the first published book, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, is very simple. 4 Pevensie siblings, Peter, Susan, Edmund and Lucy, they go to live with a relative during the war. They go to the countryside. Life there is very boring for them until Lucy suggests playing hide and seek. While playing hide and seek, Lucy discovers a magical wardrobe, which is a gateway to the magical land called Narnia. There's an eternal winter in Narnia because of the curse of its ruler, the White Witch. However, there's a prophecy that one day 4 human children, 2 boys and 2 girls, also known as sons of Adam and daughters of Eve, will come to Narnia to save the magical land. I think the best part of the book is that it starts with something small, like Lucy suggesting playing hide and seek, and then it ends with something epic. Each novel revolves around saving Narnia from different kinds of dangers. Part 2. The characters. The Chronicles of Narnia books are above all this magical land called Narnia, Narnia's inhabitants, and the human protagonists that try to save Narnia. But nonetheless, Narnia is a very character-driven series. There are many different characters in Narnia books, but in this video I will only focus on the few characters. The eldest Pevensie sibling is Peter. He is protective of his brother and 2 sisters, and he is a little bit stubborn. Over the course of the series, he embodies bravery and responsibility. In later books, he is shown to be much more hot-headed than his siblings. The next sibling is Susan. She is the most skeptical of the 4, but eventually she does stand on Narnia's side, even though she originally is against that. Next comes Edmund. He is often considered to be the black sheep of the family. He's the mean one, I'd say, especially towards his little sister Lucy, and he easily falls under negative influence. And the last sibling is Lucy. She is the one who discovers Narnia. She is the friendliest and kindest of the 4, and she has the strongest connection to Narnia. And there are 2 other important characters. There's Aslan, the godlike figure in the series, and he is the creator of Narnia and all its residents. And there's White Witch, the wicked ruler of Narnia, the one who put eternal winter over Narnia. And there are also supporting characters like the Beavers, Mr. Tumnus, Rippy Cheap, and so on. The first book is devoid of human characters in Narnia itself, except for Pevensie siblings, but the later books fix this. Part 2. The setting. Each book in the series, except for one, begins in the human world and continues in Narnia. There are multiple ways to get into Narnia apart from the wardrobe. Narnia is close to a standard fantasy setting. However, nearly all inhabitants, at least at the very beginning, are talking animals, and humans come to Narnia later. On the south of Narnia lies its ally country, Archenland. Archenland. In Russian it's Orlandia. And there is also the rival country, Kellerman. In Russian it's Tarkistan. A Horse and His Boy is the only book in the series that doesn't begin in the human world, it starts in Kellerman. Time in Narnia and in human world goes differently. It's never certain how much time passes in Narnia between the visits from the human world. It can be 1,000 years or it can be only 3. Part 3. The reading order. Oh, this is a tricky part, to be honest. The publishing order of the books isn't the same as its inner chronological order. The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe is the first book published, but it's the second book chronologically. Okay, on the screen I'm going to show you the publishing order. You can see that it starts with The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe in 1950. And it ends with The Last Battle, published in 1956. The series were published every year. Now on the screen you can see the inner chronological order. Well, at least The Last Battle is still the last book in the series. So here's another edition of Narnia that I own, the one without the last 3 books, I mean in chronological order. And both of these editions, they follow the inner chronological order. Most full volume editions, they follow the inner chronology, and C.S. Lewis supported that chronology himself. Since A Horse and His Boy is set during the events of The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, although towards the end, this book comes right after Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. Part 5. Influences on Narnia. When C.S. Lewis was 7, he and his family moved to a large house. This is sort of an inspiration for Professor Kirk's house when the Pevensey siblings get there. Exploring that house gave him a lot of space for imagination. During the war, his goddaughter Lucy stayed with him, and the first book is dedicated to her. Of course, one of the characters in the books is named Lucy, and there's this touching letter he wrote for her when he said, "Soon you will be old enough to read fairy tales again." Sorry, I don't remember the exact words because I read the letter in Russian rather than in English. Lewis also drew inspiration from mythology, particularly Celtic mythology, and another inspiration is Paradise Lost by John Milton. Part 6. Now we've come to the parts of why it's actually worth reading. Unlike other major fantasy series, Narnia is much easier to read. You can read it in a few days. The series quickly captures your imagination and it speaks to your sense of wonder. It's a story of loyalty, friendship, bravery, intrigue, and many other interesting things. If you read a lot of mature fantasy in the past, like A Song of Ice and Fire or The First Law or something like that, and now you're looking for something more down to earth, I mean without all the adult topics, I'd say, then Narnia is for you. And also it has one very important lesson, it's very valuable. You can change for the better. If you read the books, you know what I mean when I say that. There are a few characters that embody this lesson. Part 7. What I think of the series. Now, of course, I absolutely love Narnia, and my favorite book of the series has to be A Horse and His Boy. Like I said earlier, it takes place during the events of The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, towards the end. Some readers think that it's sort of a filler story. I promise you it's not. It's an organic part of Narnia. It isn't some kind of spin-off or prequel or whatever. It has a lot of royal intrigue, adventures, friendship, and so on. When I first read A Horse and His Boy, I thought, wow, this is like Game of Thrones, but it can also be read by a younger audience. Yeah, back in the day, any fantasy that had royal intrigue was like Game of Thrones for me. Another favorite of mine is The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe itself. After all, this is my gateway to Narnia. this is where the story starts in general. I mean, for the readers not reading in chronological order. And of course, I absolutely love the 2005 film. The decorations, the costumes, the acting, the script, the special effects, the score, everything is amazing in that film. It's one of my all-time favorite films. My favorite character has to be Lucy, because I do like that she's friendly, she's kind, she's empathetic, but she's also brave, and she can be stoic at times. And I love that she has a strong connection to Narnia, particularly to Aslan. Well, speaking of Aslan, I don't like how he treats other characters. Non-Lucy characters, I'd say. He treats Lucy so softly. You can see that there's a strong bond between them, and he doesn't treat other characters, other girls like this. And my least favorite aspect of the Narnia books is the dynamics between the White Witch and one of the characters. I won't say whom, but I get you already guessed who that character is. These scenes make me uncomfortable, especially in the film. And now part 8. Narnia-themed music. Now, there's a tradition to recommend songs inspired by the book that has a Why It's Worth Reading episode dedicated to them. There's a Swedish metal band called Narnia. I heard of them before and I listened to them in the sake of this video. They have this song called The Witch and the Lion from their Desert Land album. There's also the song called Narnia by Steve Hackett, and one of Blind Guardian songs mention Narnia. It's from their Imaginations from the Other Side album. I did the tier list of the books from Blind Guardian songs and I listed the songs and the books accordingly. Anyway, that's all. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. What do you think of Narnia? Let me know down in the comments. Write down who are your favorite characters, what do you like about the series, and so on. See you next time. Goodbye. I will be back with another episode of the series.